Hello viewers. Today we will discuss about Overseas Domestic Worker Visa of UK. Today, we will try to discuss brief overview, eligibility, employment rights, in case of victim of modern slavery or human trafficking, required and related documentation, how much it costs, what you can and cannot do, extend your visa, application, and decision. Overview. You can apply for a visa to visit the UK with your employer if you live outside the UK, are a domestic worker in a private household, have worked for your employer for at least 1 year, meet the other eligibility requirements. Domestic workers include cleaners, chauffeurs, cooks, those providing personal care for the employer and their family, nannies. Eligibility. You must prove that you are 19 or older, have worked for your employer for at least 1 year, work in the same household as your employer, or one they use regularly, plan to travel to the UK with your employer, their partner, or children, intend to work as a full-time domestic worker in a UK household your employer will live in, plan to leave the UK at the end of 6 months, are able to support yourself in the UK without the need for public funds. Your employer. Your employer must be either a British citizen, who usually lives outside the UK and who does not intend to remain in the UK for more than 6 months, foreign citizen, who is coming to the UK on a visit and who does not intend to remain for more than 6 months. Your employer must also pay you at least the national minimum wage. Documents you must provide. When applying, you must provide the following documents: a current passport or other valid travel identification, proof you can support yourself during your trip, for example bank statements, or payslips for the last 6 months, a completed appendix domestic worker statement, signed by both you and your employer, a letter from your employer confirming your job title, how long you've worked for them, and that you're a permanent employee. You must also provide one of the following documents, covering the same period of employment: pay slips or bank statements showing payment of salary, confirmation of tax paid, confirmation of health insurance paid, contract of employment, work visa, residence permit or equivalent passport endorsement for the country where you're currently employed by your employer, visas or equivalent passport endorsement if you've traveled with your employer before. Your employment rights. When you work in the UK, your employer must pay you an agreed rate, which must be at least the national minimum wage, not force you to work excessive hours, give you agreed holiday pay, give you the notice you're entitled to if your employment ends. Your employer cannot change your employment conditions unless you agree. If your employer does not meet these requirements, you can take legal action through an employment or industrial tribunal or the civil courts. If you're a victim of modern slavery or human trafficking. Modern slavery and human trafficking involve being forced to do something you do not want to do, usually by being hurt or threatened. You may be forced to work for free or less than the minimum wage, get married, or move to a country against your will. You can apply to stay in the UK for up to 2 years, if both of the following apply. You have a conclusive grounds letter from the Single Competent Authority, SCA, confirming that you're a victim of modern slavery or human trafficking. You entered the UK on an overseas domestic worker visa, on a domestic worker in a private household visa, or as a private servant of a diplomat, known as a temporary work, international agreement visa. The temporary work, international agreement visa, has now replaced the temporary worker, international agreement worker visa, T5. You must apply within 28 days of getting confirmation you're a victim of modern slavery or human trafficking. How much it costs? It costs £637 for an overseas domestic worker visa. If you have any dependent children aged over 18, they will need to apply separately. Fees. For each person applying, it costs £1,258 to apply to extend your visa, £2,885 to apply to settle. What you can and cannot do. You, your partner and child can Travel abroad and return to the UK to complete your stay. Change employers to another job as a domestic worker in a private household, only if you do not stay longer than the 6 months. You, your partner and child cannot work except as a domestic worker in a private household. Live in the UK for long periods of time through frequent visits. Get public funds. Extend your visa. How long you can stay. You can use this visa to visit the UK with your employer for up to 6 months. You must return home at the end of the 6 months. You cannot extend an overseas domestic worker visa. You may be able to extend a domestic worker in a private household visa if you applied on or before the 5th of April 2012. Application. You must apply for this visa online. As part of your application, you will need to prove your identity, which can be done in one of 2 ways, depending on your nationality and passport type. Visa Application Centre. Have your fingerprints and photograph taken to get a biometric residence permit. UK Immigration, ID Check app. Scan your identity document and sign in or create a UK Visas and Immigration, UKVI, account. You'll be informed of the process when you apply. Decision. A decision will be made within 8 weeks of your application date if you use the standard service. You may be able to pay to get a faster decision. You'll be contacted if your application is complex and will take longer, for example because your supporting documents need to be verified. You need to attend an interview of your personal circumstances, for example if you have a criminal conviction. Thank you for watching.